Hey everybody, it's your old pal Uncle Phil, and this is the Uncle Phil playlist. And today the song I'm adding to the playlist is "Lost Cause" by Beck. Lost Cause. I think, is it off the Sea Change album? I don't know. It's been some years, let me tell you. It's been a minute since that album came out, whatever it was. I think it was called Sea Change. I don't know. Anyhow, Lost Cause is the song. And I dedicate this to arguments online. I have relationships in my life from my history, spanning the course of my life. Some relationships going back to childhood, 40 years or more. I'm in my mid-50s. But, some people I've kept up with. And it's interesting, whether it's friends or family members, people on all sides of the ideological spectrum of thought. And it's funny to me how some people are really, it's not funny, not like funny, haha, I'm not laughing at you. It's fascinating to me how people are really invested in making statements online. They really want to change the world through online posts, social media posts. And I've even had people come to me, in conversation in there, because I don't really participate a whole lot on social media. I post my Wordle score to a little group of mostly like middle-aged ladies and older that I've gotten connected to, and we like to post our Wordle scores and kvetch about the word of the day. But that's about the extent of my social interactions online. And I've had some people who know me who are kind of like mad, like I'm not using my platform to make a difference. Of course, they don't know about this Uncle Phil playlist for very good reason. But there's a lot of talk, and I particularly because I am super interested, of course, in all things Christianity in America, Christianity in the world. The people who are like, there's a moral obligation, like especially like should pastors be talking about religion and politics in the pulpit and things. It's beeping at me. I guess I'm close to other cars. That happens at stoplights. Okay. Anyhow, my car's beeping. Enjoy that beeping sound. It's certainly relaxing for me. I've noticed there's been some conversation and in some written pieces where people are like, there's this divide of, pastors, ministers, priests should definitely be taking a stand from the pulpit and making statements about, this and that. And then others who are saying, no, what we need to do is have the church be a place where we're not getting political and we're just focusing people back on Jesus Christ and not on all the politics. And there are really fascinating arguments both directions. But what it got me thinking about was actually the fact that there's kind of an interesting thing, I think, an observation to be made from the very life of Jesus, because people were trying to draw him into basically cultural, ideological, and political arguments all the time. I don't know if you know that, but they were, and some were. You have to keep in mind that There was no separation of church and state. There may have been competing religious understandings in, as he was walking around in first century Roman Empire, but also in Israel. Like there's some layers of complexity there. But the bottom line is that, there were the whole thing where the religious leadership of the day was coming, Jewish religious leadership of the day was coming up to him like, well, what about this situation? And what about that situation? And, well, is it lawful to do this or is it lawful to do that? And then you had The people who more on his side, like who are kind of, looks like they were maybe kind of following Jesus, and they were like, hey, he's kind of revolutionary and he thinks differently. Maybe he can get us out of paying taxes. So they were like, well, what, do we really have to pay these taxes? Do we really have to pay that? And he, of course, famously, render to Caesar what's Caesar's. Like, he never gave people quite the answers they were looking for on these political and cultural things. Very often it was, he confounded everybody, because generally speaking, the person asking the question, when they were demanding that he, level some judgment in one direction or the other, was often he was going to disappoint them. But here's the thing. He did get into some definite back and forth. So for all those people that are like, you need to get into the fray and you need to argue. Okay, well, Jesus did get into some arguments with people over topics. But here's the observation I want to make, all right? Jesus Jesus won those arguments, and it didn't change the people. Like, here's what I want to say. Like, in those arguments with, like, the Pharisees, the religious leadership, it was really interesting. It's an incredible sort of case study in brilliant argumentation, which should come as no surprise, because, I believe Jesus was fully God, fully man. I believe that about him. So you would expect him to be a pretty shrewd arguer. Also, on top of that, so, he's got the advantage of, in fact, being the Son of God, being fully God and fully man. But also, he's pretty fluent in the Old Testament law and the Bible. He knows the scriptures pretty well, right? Like, even when he was a kid, he was confounding the leadership when he was, explaining things. They're like, wow, nobody teaches with this kind of authority. Nobody knows the things he knows. Again, see also, he might have had a little bit of an unfair advantage being God. The point being, nobody's going to make a better, more compelling argument and more clever argument with more evidence than Jesus, right? Like, nobody is going to, in a religious argument, nobody's going to be like, well, police camera reported ahead. Mobile police camera. Watch it, Phil, because I'm pretty sure I've racked up a couple of tickets from not paying attention here. I'm just waiting for those to hit the mailbox. Very exciting. Apparently there's points on my license. I didn't realize I could be knocking points off. Wouldn't it be terrible to suddenly get a notice that says you can't drive anymore, bonehead? So I'm going to be real careful here. But nobody's going to make a better argument, a more compelling. So if it's about winning an argument, you'd kind of think, like, if people are going to listen to an argument and go, oh, shit, he's right. Wow, that's actually, in fact, that's a really good argument he made. Or, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. Or, oh, I'd forgotten about that passage. Or, oh, I guess I misunderstood that. Like if that was ever going to happen, it would have happened when Jesus was making the arguments. So now, let's just be clear. If I go on, or if you go on, and you think you're being very clever with great evidence, like, just ask yourself, if Jesus, with all of his potential unfair advantages in the argumentation process, didn't convince his audience to change their way of thinking, you think you're gonna? You think you're gonna? Like, I'm not saying this to say stop saying what you're saying online. I don't know whether people should say things or not. My dad once told me that sort of his policy was, there are times when you need to go on record about something, regardless of whether or not it's going to accomplish anything practical or advance your cause forward. It's just morally necessary to say, I'm going on record to be on this side of this debate. That was my dad's statement. He was like, but in his mind, that was a special occasion. Like, most of the time you're looking for not throwing pearls before swine, because, that's another biblical idea. Like, don't waste time if it's going to accomplish something. But he's like, but there are times when you go, and that's what you can kind of see. Like, Jesus didn't just have a single policy, like, I take every argument In fact, there were some where he was like, well, tell me, you answer my question and then I'll answer yours. And they're like, well, we can't. And he's like, well, then I'm not going to answer yours either. Like, there were other times where he actually just bugged out. Like, he knew they were coming and he's like, let's go. He slipped away. Like, now's not the day. So my point is I'm not making a statement that says you should or should not, lay it out online and say, by gum, I hold this position, I hold that position. I just want you to know that you should have realistic expectations about what that's going to accomplish, right? Like, realistic expectations about what that would accomplish. Because if Jesus can't take a group of people who he clearly has outclassed, outfoxed, I mean, he just smokes them in the arguments. And like, they even are like, dang it, they knew they were beaten. Like, one of my favorites is in John chapter 3, when Nicodemus comes to talk to Jesus. John 3, you may have heard of that passage. It's got a famous verse in it around verse 16. When Nicodemus comes at night, he's a religious leader. He's like Pharisee. He comes, he shows up. He says, we actually know that you're different. We know you're not the same as everybody else. Like, that's clear as a bell. Like, this was not an issue of being convinced. This was just an issue of they didn't want what he was offering. So it didn't matter how well he made the argument. They were like, no, I don't want it. It's going to mess up my life and I don't want it. So just be aware, whatever decision you make online about your proclamation of position and of your ideology, just be realistic that probably it's a lost cause. Like, you're not probably going to change anybody or anything. And I would add this: if you're going to do it, try not to be a dick about it. Like, I am struck by the fact that it isn't just that people are online stating their opinion, but that we have really given way to our most, venomous, bile-filled, uncivil ways of saying things. Maybe we could just, if you feel really compelled to put it out there, that's fine. Maybe do so graciously, magnanimously. Maybe with a thought towards the fact that there could be multiple ways to see a thing. That even if there really is an obvious right answer, that I can state what I believe is the obvious right answer without sounding incredibly hateful or demeaning, or even if the other side was hateful and demeaning, maybe I don't have to fight fire with fire. Maybe it's a thought, just a thought. Anyhow, but that was just what I was thinking about today, is because I heard somebody say that this weekend, like, we've all got to be using whatever platforms we've got to, and I was like, I don't know whether we all have to or not, but realistically, even if we all do, I don't know that it's on a personal level. I mean, I think there are, again, I'm not talking about documenting the crimes of, say, people who ought to be keeping the law, breaking the law. Like, I think it's good that people have phones out documenting wrongdoing by, federal officers. But I think just people spouting things online, I don't know, but what I do know is probably not going to have that cause a lot of people to have light bulbs go on over their heads. Like, just don't really see it happening. Sorry. Again, if it was going to happen, I think we would have seen it all over the Gospels with all these people talking to Jesus going, oh, dang, that was a good one. But they don't, because they don't want to change. We don't want to change. Anyhow, that's it from Uncle Phil today. Just a thought on the often futility of trying to change minds. Go listen to Lost Cause by Beck. It's a good one. Speaking of Jesus, just to make sure you remember, he loves you no matter what. He's pretty great like that. He loves you no matter what. And as for Uncle Phil, I wish grace, peace, and love to everyone.